Welcome to Dave Examines Movies and TV. Today, I examine source code, where one man must save the world from a treacherous trained terrorist. That is, if he can stop dying over and over and over again. Hey, I'm Dave, and I created DaveExaminesMovies.com. I've been reviewing movies for over 10 years, and I believe I've discovered the ultimate method for reviewing film. I've always used a 1 out of 100 star rating, but somehow that was still too biased and inaccurate for my taste. I wanted something so unquestionable that even if you hated something that I love, you could appreciate my logic, and I found it. I call it Interpreting the Stars, which splits the movie into 10 categories, 5 solid categories that fit any film, and 5 specialty categories created specifically for the movie at hand. The first 5 categories are people, writing, behind the scenes, narrative arc, and overall entertainment. Each of these categories will have 5 subcategories of their own that ultimately define the star rating of the film. You'll no longer have to ask why films rated 76% versus, say, 77. You'll now know what each and every star represents. This is Dave Examines Movies and TV. Alrighty, how's it going, everybody? Happy new week, I guess. It's a whole new week, and on Dave Examines Movies and TV, we're not on a specialty week as we seem to normally be. This is just a normal, random a week, and before we go back into those themed weeks, we actually have at least 3 themed weeks coming up after this week, so we'll get into that, I guess, later, but this is just a regular week. Today I'm reviewing Source Code, which I meant to review like a month ago. Tomorrow will be 13 Reasons Why for TV Tuesday. We'll talk about that, what makes it so great, maybe not so great to others. We'll talk about 13 Reasons Why in that. We're going to talk about Gladiator, Teaching Mrs. Tingle on Thursday, and The Little Mermaid, Disney's Little Mermaid, on Friday. So that's what we're doing this week. It's just a typical week this time. Source Code. I saw this at the beginning of the month, and it's nearly the end of the month now. So I want to say I saw it a month ago, but it was more like 3 weeks ago. Okay, but still, I don't usually wait that long to actually review something. I guess I just got caught up with these themed weeks, which I thought were actually a pretty cool idea. So this got pushed back. It got pushed back for weeks at a time, and finally we're talking about it. So hopefully I'll be able to remember enough about it to actually get into details like I normally do. So this is Source Code, came out in 2011. I do believe I saw it in theater, and this time that I watched it was a rewatch, but I think I've only actually seen it twice by now, which it almost seems like a crime because this is a movie that should be like watched all the time. It's very unique and very intriguing. So let's get into it a little bit. Let's talk about what IMDb says it is. It says a soldier, that would be Jake Gyllenhaal, wakes up in someone else's body and discovers he's part of an experimental government program to find the bomber of a commuter train. A mission he has only 8 minutes to complete. They go into like the science of it a little bit. Behind source code and everything, that they have this theory that when somebody dies, their brain lives on for 8 minutes, which I actually do believe is a fact. Like if you cut somebody's head off, they don't actually die for 8 minutes. They can actually keep on living, they just can't breathe, so I guess they would get knocked out. But their brain would be living for 8 minutes before they die. But if they die right away, like an explosion of a train, the idea was that you can log into their brain and see the last 8 minutes of their life for this specific government program that's going on in source code. And Jake Gyllenhaal is basically just a soldier that's living in one of the trained people's lives. I mean, it gets really sci-fi because he can get up and walk around and create his own memories from that. They say it's not time travel, it's more like a glitch. and you can go anywhere in pretty much the world in that you can physically go to in 8 minutes. It's just what would actually happen in that 8 minutes. So it's very confusing, I think, if you really dig down into the complexities of everything. But I think for the most part, they do explain it in the movie as basically an 8-minute long alternate universe, basically. So that's what's going on in the movie. I won't get into too much because if I got into too much, it would actually start spoiling you a little bit. So, source code 2011, IMDb rates it 7.5 out of 10 possible stars. I will say that I did rate it higher. I just won't tell you how much until later. So let's get into the itty-bitty-gritty details here. First off, I want to talk about the people score. What makes up the people score is the acting, the characters, the casting, the importance, and the chemistry. First off, acting. I've always believed that Jake Gyllenhaal is a very, very well-versed actor. Pretty much ever since Donnie Darko, which was still amazing to this day. I could almost make an entire week talking about Donnie Darko, but I'm not going to. Jake Gyllenhaal plays Coulter Stevens, and you're talking about a guy that has to relive the last 8 minutes over and over and over in the movie until it ends. So how are you going to make that different? How are you going to change things up as an actor for 8 minutes at a time? I don't know. I don't know if I could do it, but he definitely did. He made it new. He made it not actually feel like the same 8 minutes over and over again. He made it feel fresh. And I think that had a lot to do with his acting ability. He definitely pulled the movie along, just him. But there's also Michelle Monaghan, Vera Farmiga, and Jeffrey Wright, who definitely helped with the acting as well, because they're all clearly very good actors at the same time. So I'm glad they're all there. So that's all good. Acting is 2 out of 2 stars for that. I don't see any problem with the acting. I believe they are all pretty much phenomenal. Characters. Do you remember this movie for the characters? I think for the most part you remember it for the concept, but these are good characters. Coulter Stevens, and what makes him a good soldier, a good memorable soldier, versus just a soldier in general, it's pretty unique, I think. Michelle Monaghan is mostly just a random girlfriend of sorts, but, I mean, sort of. That's all I can really say about that. Vera Farmiga is pretty good as the mysterious military lady that's giving him all these orders, and Jeffrey Wright is always this goofy, weird, mysterious dude that's like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. We want to know more about him and what makes him tick and why he's there in the first place. And that's pretty much his role in this as well. Kind of the Wizard of Oz, sort of. So I said the character's 2 out of 2 stars as well for source code. Next up is casting. Could they have casted anyone different in the movie? I can't see them really casting anybody differently. Jake Gyllenhaal's a master at this movie. Jeffrey Wright, I don't know if anybody can play a character like Jeffrey Wright. If anything, maybe Michelle Monaghan could have been played by somebody else. But that's okay. I mean, the main players in this movie are all cast pretty significantly well, that you don't notice any bad acting from any of the other players that might not be as important in the overall story. So, as far as the casting is considered, I said 2 out of 2 stars. That's the first thing that came to my mind. How about the importance of the characters? Do they all add to the plot? Jake Gyllenhaal, obviously main character. Michelle Monaghan, she does in a way that you wouldn't really expect. She's kind of the driving force of Jake Gyllenhaal's, she's his drive. So she does play a vital role in the adding to the plot. Vera Farmiga and Jeffrey Wright's characters of Goodwin and Rutledge are pretty darn important as far as their mysterious characters go, and both of their, agendas, I should say. They work together, but they are very different from each other as well. Vera Farmiga tells him what to do, but she's also working for Rutledge, who we absolutely know nothing about. He's just in the background, but we know he's important. Very important characters. I say 2 out of 2 stars for importance. Lastly, on the people score is chemistry. How does everybody work well together? Jake Gyllenhaal works very well with Michelle Monaghan as kind of a romantic interest. Vera Farmiga being a mystery, and same as Rutledge. Though they're both mysteries in their own different kind of ways. And Vera works very well with Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright works very well with Jake. Vera Farmiga works really well with Jake. Everybody works well together. The only, Michelle Monaghan doesn't, contact Vera Farmiga or Jeffrey Wright, but I'm sure if she did, they'd have good chemistry. I don't know. Irrelevant. Everybody has good chemistry. 2 out of 2 stars there. That brings the people score up to a perfect 10 out of 10 possible star rating. So we're off on a good roll. All right. Next up is the writing score. What makes up the writing score is the dialogue, how balanced it is, the story itself, the originality, and if it's interesting. I'll say right now this doesn't have a perfect score, but it's pretty high. We're talking about dialogue. The first thing about dialogue is that it is a memorable dialogue, not only in the actual spoken word, but also in the kind of the dialogue of the film, what it's trying to say. So, first off, the dialogue as far as what people are saying, there's a code they say over and over again, so that's pretty much logged in your memory. And also, you're talking about an event that's happening over and over and over again, multiple times. So what's really going on is you're going to know when somebody's going to say something, when somebody's going to do something. So dialogue actually is very important in this movie. I'm going to say 2 out of 2 stars for dialogue. Next up is this is a balanced movie. No. Well, naturally, it's not a super balanced movie. It can absolutely be seen as over convoluted, but that's to be expected. It is a movie that has a lot of stuff going on at the same time, and I really mean the same time because it's the same 8 minutes of his life, or the character's life that he's in, and you don't really know what's really going on because he does it over and over again. Some shots he just goes there and explodes. It's a lot of that. But yeah. So I would say 1 out of 2 stars for balance. You do understand the story, I think, in the long run, but there is a lot of stuff that's going on. A lot of the same, explosion story, which is to be expected, but still. Next up, how's the story? What's the heart of the story? What's it trying to tell you? Not a lot. This is like a pure entertainment movie. It could have been better in the story that it's trying to tell you. Maybe courage, maybe how much the military believes it has a right over your life. Maybe it's a little bit of a dialogue on that, but it's not by much, and it's not super, so we will say 1 out of 2 stars for story. Originality. Is it original? I think it is. I know it's like Groundhog Day. I guess we'll talk more about that in the specialty questions. But it's not at the same time, because this is more like Quantum Leap meets Groundhog Day meets on crack or something, you know? So it is its own thing. So for originality, I'll say 2 out of 2 possible stars. Also interesting. It's very interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting from the get-go because it just gets on with it really quick. So I said 2 out of 2 stars for interesting. And as far as the writing's considered, the whole writing score as a whole is 8 out of 10 possible stars. That brings our subtotal up to 18 out of 20. Sorry. Okay, so next up, we're gonna talk about the BTS score. BTS is behind the scenes. So what's going on there? What makes up the BTS score? Visuals, directing, editing, advertising, and the music. That's what makes it up. So how well does it do? Well, every movie has behind the scenes. It just depends on how well each movie does. Well, I lost it. Here we go. Next, first up is visuals. This is a very compelling visual movie. When you think about it, as far as CGI is considered, there's not really any CGI. There's some explosions that happen constantly, so maybe that. But no, it's him in that cockpit of the helicopter. It's the vision of the train. It's hard to say. The look of the train, the feel of everything. It's all about the visuals, and it just looks really nice. And if you look at the poster about him running on that thing with all the memories and everything exploding behind him, it's kind of like that throughout the movie. It's just, it feels futuristic, but just normal at the same time. So visuals are a 2 out of 2 possible star. Next up is the directing. Directing is 2 out of 2 stars. Because, like I said, a lot of the visuals weren't, post-production stuff. It was on production, so it was, commanded by the director most of the time. And there's just a lot of really great shots. The train itself is a very, if you've ever been on a train, there's not a lot of space to roam or whatnot. There's very little room. But the way the camera moves around and follows him through these small areas was pretty well done, I think. And the direction beyond that, about trying to tell a story that's made up into pieces and putting it together, was all very well done. So I'm going to have to say 2 out of 2 for the directing. The editing, now you're talking about things that are blowing up all the time and piecing that together. Very well done with that, okay? There was very little that I wasn't actually impressed with as far as the editing was considered. So I said 2 out of 2 stars for the editing. Advertisement, it was as I remembered. It is how it is advertised. I said 2 out of 2 for that. It's as advertised, so that's good. Music, nothing really important stuck out for the music. It was just typical, action music. So I said 1 out of 2 stars for that. That brings the BTS score up to 9 out of 10 stars. So that is 9 out of 10. That brings it up to 27 out of 30. Yeah. Next up, we have the narrative arc score. This is always important, you guys, because the narrative arc tells the story. If you feel like something's missing, it might be the narrative arc. The narrative arc is made up of the introduction, the inciting incident, the obstacles, the climax, and the falling action. I will tell you right off the bat that the narrative arc got a perfect 10 out of 10 star rating, but let's get into it. So the first one is the introduction. The introduction was basically introducing you to the idea that this train blows up. The idea that he's living in a constant repeating cycle and that he has to stop a train from exploding. It's all still a mystery, but still. So 2 out of 2 there. Inciting Incident is when he commits to the role of finding out what's going on. It's basically when he really gets exploded and he has to commit to the role. So 2 out of 2 stars there. The obstacles, so obvious I shouldn't even be able to say it. Train explodes all the time because he hasn't finished the job yet. 2 out of 2 stars there. The climax, it's when he figures out what's kind of going on. I won't tell you everything, but that's a little spoilery. 2 out of 2 stars there. Following action is bringing things to a normal life, which is actually really, really cool to the new norm, the way that they do things. So I said 2 out of 2 stars there. So next up is the entertainment score. That 37 out of 40. I think we're at 37 out of 40. Next up is entertainment. So what makes up the entertainment score is the rewatchability factor, the fun factor, the impulse to buy it, the impulse to talk about it, and it sucks the audience in. So let's get into that. Is this a rewatchable movie? Yes, I've rewatched it already, but other than that, I could see myself really watching it over and over again just to see if I missed anything. So 2 out of 2 stars there. Is it fun? Heck yeah, it's fun. It's like what's going to happen next. Even though I kind of know what's going to happen next, I want to see how it's going to happen next anyways. So 2 out of 2 stars there. Do you have an impulse to buy it? I sort of do, but I don't want to buy it right now, if that makes sense. I sort of want to buy it, but not unless it's like maybe a cheap version or something. So 1 out of 2 stars there. Impulse to talk about it? Yes, I really want to talk about what happens in this movie, but I can't because somebody else hasn't seen it. 2 out of 2 stars there. Does it suck the audience in? For the same reason for rewatchability and fun factor, yes, 2 out of 2 stars there. That brings the entertainment score up to 9 out of 10 possible stars. That brings us up to the specialty questions. Aren't you excited? Because I am. So I wrote these 5 questions before seeing the movie. Again, I guess I should say it. So the first one was obvious. Does it hold up from memory? I'd say 10 out of 10. I remember really, really enjoying this movie. So I said, yeah, 10 out of 10 there. Absolutely. As far as Jake Gyllenhaal, when I think of Jake Gyllenhaal and I mention the best of his movies, does this come up? I wouldn't miss saying that this is one of his best. I would mention it in there. I would say, Donnie Darko, Source Code, blah, 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 blah. So 10 out of 10 stars for that. You think of action when you think of this. So how's the action? Other than things blowing up. You got fast-paced music, you got him running around on a train, you got some good fight scenes here and there, some deaths that weren't from the explosion or anything like that, so I would definitely say, yes, 10 out of 10 for the action as well. Next up, when remembering it, I thought of Groundhog Day, because I couldn't remember the specific details. I knew this is like, Groundhog Day, it's repeating, which is true. But it's not like Groundhog Day. He's not playing himself. He's playing some other character, and it's not a Groundhog Day. It's a Groundhog 8 minutes. So there's too many factors that aren't like Groundhog Day, so I said 5 out of 10 possible stars there. And because I couldn't remember exactly, I asked finally, is it halfway decent? 10 out of 10 stars there. That's not even a serious question. I mean, come on. That means my total specialty categories came up to 45 out of 50 possible stars. And our total score, ready? Our total score is 91%. 91 out of 100 possible stars. Very good movie. If you haven't seen it, see it. And I know I'm kind of rushing through things, so I apologize for that. But very good movie. Check it out. And that's your review for Monday. If you got any questions, concerns, comments, or anything like that, you can email me at dave@daveexamensmovies.com. You can also tweet me at IAMDWG. You can follow what I'm watching at IAMDWG on tracked.tv. And lots of other things. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. Subscribe, like, and I'll see you tomorrow when we review 13 Reasons Why for TV Tuesday. I know you're excited. I'm excited too. We're going to be talking about what makes that show tick, what's the best things about it, what's the worst things about it. So, yeah. I'll see you tomorrow with 13 Reasons Why.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the number one critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us. We think you're pretty slick. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.